Shadow was never meant to be a hero from the beginning. Nekki in their Q&A responded that Shadow is a character who realizes his mistakes and later becomes a hero. Remember the first dialogue in Shadow Fight 2, Sensei asks whether Shadow understood what he has done wrong. Shadow was a ruthless warrior who searched for a worthy battle and left his sensei. Being an egoist. However, as Nekki says, beloved hero is respected for who he is. They say his character is quite complex and at the same time tragic. Developers said that they were heavily inspired by movies that we watch every day. Think about it, who does Titan remind you of? If you thought about Thanos from Avengers, you're not alone. But he actually is just a collection of several characters' traits. The same goes for the demons. Hermit was taken from an old man in K-Bill, as creators said. His personality traits also combine several characters. Have you ever noticed whom other demons may remind? Tell in the comments. Shadow Fight 3 has a weird story, it's complicated. They ruined our favorite story. That's what some people say. Regardless of what you think about the third game, it wasn't made out of nowhere just to make profits. Nekki said they had come up with an idea about the lore of the third game back at the time of making a story for the second game. They just hadn't figured out the ending of the third game at that moment. What about the first game? As developers say, at that time, making a story for a mobile game wasn't that popular. So Shadow Fight 1 doesn't really have much lore or major events that take place. Doesn't this guy remind you of someone? Just search for a film called Equilibrium. One character who looks exactly like this guy is also literally called Cleric. This example, similar to the one mentioned about Hermit, is just one reference. The first creator of the series liked watching Eastern action movies, which lead to such a variety of weapons in Shadow Fight 2. Directors of the story were inspired by Jackie Chan movies, Marvel comics, horror films and much more. Comment down below if you found a character who was heavily inspired by some film in Shadow Fight 2. Remember how years ago we got the response that Shadow's name was hidden in the darkness? In October 2023, Nekki stated the following: "We have never thought about giving our main protagonist a name. However, now we are thinking about doing so. Which means very soon we might be able to know Shadow's name. What do you think? Which name suits Shadow the best?" As was stated in the Q&A, creators already planned making of Shadow Fight 3. But new ideas and cool concepts kept coming from the creators, so they came up with Tier 4 for the underground bosses, where a new story could implement those theories. Developers said, what happened to Shadow after he defeated Titan? You can learn about in Shadow Fight 3 and in Shadow Fight Shades. Before we continue, I want to say thanks for everyone who keeps supporting the channel. The videos aren't easy to make, it takes a lot of effort and time. The ad revenue from YouTube isn't even close to making up for all the work, but you can help me by donating. The link is in the description. If you can't afford to donate, but you're still willing to support, you can like the video, comment your opinion and subscribe. I'd say thanks if you checked out the games I develop, left your feedback and subscribed to the channel. Back to the video. In the beginning, it was supposed that Shadow defeats all the demons and the gates return his human body. However, 2 professional screenwriters were hired, who came up with Titan's epic act, and made the lore way more complex rather than just Shadow defeating everyone and getting his human body back. It was suggested that Shadow Mind needed physical bodies to enter human world. Hence there should have been a character who does something. I can't say what exactly, since I can get demonetized. It was also part of a story that Shadow goes and asks this character about the one whose body is possessed by Shadow Mind. Game producers thought that the idea was too extreme for Shadow Fight 2. What would you change in the plot of Shadow Fight 2? Tell in the comments. What makes these games unique? The facts that the fighting is between silhouettes rather than actual colored characters. This idea was phenomenal. However, originally the characters were made this way, so that the budget of the game could be lowered and a lot of time saved. Since the first version of the game was made by Yevgeny Diabin alone, it was not easy to make all the work by himself. The main focus was on the animations. Only later the developers realized that shadow fighting was something unique that helped the game to stand out among many other mobile games. You might have noticed how different is Act 7 compared to others. Its setting, the equipment, the enemies are no longer human, the fighting is no longer just to return Shadow's human body. It's about saving Mei and saving countless worlds from the mighty conqueror. The lead game designer even wanted a cutscene that would give an idea to the player about the world he has entered. But as the producers thought the game wasn't so much about lore, but rather about fighting, they decided to make a fight against Shroud, where player is supposed to lose and Callie saves Shadow. As Nekki stated, it was a unique challenge for software developer to make that scene. This video would have been impossible to make unless one person hadn't commented saying my theory was wrong and that Nekki had responded about the lore of Shadow fight. My special thanks for the viewer. You can go to the video and read his comment. Also, I was able to find a VK page of Nekki and read all the available information, which led to making this video. You also can comment down below your opinion or suggest your theories about the game.